Plain and simple, if you're looking for one of the easiest and most affordable ways to freshen up the front and rear brakes on your 2015 through 2023 non-Performance Pack GT or your Performance Pack EcoBoost, well then PowerStop's OE replacement kit that we have here today will be the way to go. Now PowerStop is going to include some brand new zinc-coated blank rotors in addition to their ceramic compound pads for just north of $400. So if you guys weren't familiar, PowerStop does offer a nice assortment of budget pad and rotor kits here on the site, ranging from their basic OE replacement stuff that we have on the table today, all the way down the line to their all-out track day pads and rotors and everything in between. Now the OE kit that we're talking about here today is going to be a very basic kit, very bare bones if you will, and as a result will be super affordable when compared to other options on the site, including PowerStop's more aggressive kits like the Z23 and the Z26, both of which are going to kick in things like slotted and drilled rotors, along with a more aggressive pad compound. But getting into some of the individual components here with the PowerStop kit, you're going to start off with the G3000 grade cast iron rotors, have been given a zinc plating to help reduce rust and corrosion over the years. Now, unlike the stock rotors, the PowerStop blanks do include a unique chambered air vane design, basically in between the two surfaces here. That's going to help aid in cooling the rotors during use, which is crucial to keeping fade down and braking performance up. Now the rotors are all 100% mill balanced to prevent any vibration or inconsistencies and are backed by a 90-day or 3,000-mile warranty in case you run into any issues. Now moving into the pads here, and they are going to feature a basic ceramic compound, which is a great choice for a lot of street car owners out there because they're going to deliver low dust and low noise, which is something that can't always be said for the more aggressive pads in the category. Now don't expect a crazy improvement in performance over your factory setup here. However, it will be a fresh setup, so there will be a performance upgrade in that regard. Now finally guys, the pads have been given a thermal scorching process for quick break-in, along with rubberized shims to help keep noise down even further. Price point for the PowerStop OE kit will live in that low $400 range, which does make this one of the more affordable front and rear replacements on the site at the time of this video. Now, if you did want to step up performance a bit and even your appearance a bit, you could always check out one of PowerStop's more aggressive kits here on the site, which will run you about $100, give or take more than the OE stuff that we're talking about here today. Now, as far as your installation is concerned, well, very basic stuff pads and rotors are, so the site's going to stick with a 2 out of 3 wrench rating on the difficulty meter. Call it a couple of hours or so to complete from start to finish. But now to give you a better idea of how this one might go down in the garage or driveway at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
The tools you'll need for this project are a 1/2-inch drive and a 3/8 drive ratchet, a 10, a 14, a 15, and an 18mm socket, a 1/2-inch extension, a couple of caliper piston compression tools, a pair of pliers, a punch, a hammer, a caliper hanging tool, some brake cleaner, and a clean cloth, and a 1/2-inch breaker bar. Hi everyone, today we're installing a set of brakes on our Mustang, so let's get started with the uninstall of the stock brakes first. All right, first thing we're going to do is disconnect a couple of 10mm bolts, one here for the parking brake cable and one for the brake hose. Now we'll disconnect the bolt for our brake hose. And the next thing we'll do is remove the two 14mm bolts that hold our caliper to the caliper mounting bracket, one at the top here and one below here. Now the two bolts are one at the top here and one at the bottom here, right below where the banjo fitting fits onto the caliper. Now we can slide our caliper straight out and just let it hang by the parking brake cable. Now we'll remove the 2 retaining springs and our pads. Now you do want to take notice on the pads as to which one has the wear indicator. So on ours, the wear indicator is on the inside pad, so when we replace them, that's where we want that one to go. And we just slide our pads right out. Now we're going to remove our caliper mounting bracket so that we can take our rotor out. Now you may need a breaker bar to break loose the 2 18mm bolts in the back that hold our caliper mounting bracket to the axle bracket. We use our 18mm socket on our breaker bar. And then once you get them broke loose, you can use your ratchet. And with the bolts removed, we'll just slide our caliper mounting bracket away. Now, depending on the condition of your rotors, as you can see, we've got some rust on ours. You may need to use some penetrating spray. And just get in there between the axle housing and the rotor itself. Give a few minutes for that to set up. Try and break that free. And then we'll use a dead blow hammer on the rotor to try and break that free. Once you've got it free, go ahead and just slide it right off. All right, now we're ready to start putting things back together. So one of the first things I like to do is go ahead and put the rotor on backwards for now, just to hold it in place. And then go ahead and clean off the pad surface of the rotors just to make sure that there's no residue from the manufacturing process or the shipping process. Make sure we've got a nice clean surface for the pads to attach to. So we're going to use some brake cleaner and a clean cloth and just spray this down. And then wipe it off. Now we can go ahead and flip it over. And do the same thing on this side. Now, with that being said, it's also a good idea at this point to go ahead and clean off this surface here around the hub. Go ahead and make sure that there's no rust or dirt or anything built up in there. And then maybe put a little bit of anti-seize around the edge of it there so we don't have a sticking problem if we need to replace them later on. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and replace these slide spring clips in our caliper mounting bracket with the one supplied in the kit. So just use a small flathead screwdriver and you can prop those right off. we'll just go ahead and pop the new ones in. All right, now we can go ahead and reattach our caliper mounting bracket using the original hardware. And tighten them down with our 18mm socket. All right, now before we put our pads in, we need to make sure that we compress the piston back inside the caliper. And the reason for that is the new rotor and the new pads are most likely going to be much thicker than what you took off. So we need to compress the piston in there so that it will fit over the brake pads the way that they're supposed to. And for that, you're going to need a special rear caliper tool that you can rent at most parts stores. So we're going to put this in here. It's got two little nubs on the bottom of this wheel. They're going to fit into the slots in the piston. And then this support pad on the outside will fit between the two ears on the caliper itself. So we'll go ahead and spread this out until it touches. And once it touches, then we can go ahead and grab the handle and turn it down. And once it stops, we can go ahead and back this off. Remove our tool, and you can see that our piston is now flat against the seal of the caliper. All right, now we can go ahead and install our pads in our caliper mounting bracket. Remembering, of course, the orientation of the wear indicator. This one is going on the inside. So we'll slide that into our slots here. In the spring clip. Squeeze them all the way into the rotor. Then we can take our caliper, slide it over our pads. And reattach our caliper using the original hardware. Now we'll tighten those down using our 14mm socket. Now we can reattach our parking brake cable and our brake hose. And we'll tighten those down with our 10mm socket. Now, next thing, we're going to be using a punch and a hammer to drive these pins out of the caliper here and here, keeping in mind that this center plate right here is spring loaded, so there is some tension on there. So we'll just take our punch, put it on a pin from the back side, and start tapping it out. All right, now once you've got your spring clip gone, you should just be able to slide your pins right out. And now we can go ahead and remove our pads. So we can use the pins, retaining pins, and pull from the inside and slide our pads out. And again, pay attention to the wear indicator on the pad so we know when we put the new ones in, which one goes on the inside, which one goes on the outside. All right, and just like the rears, we've got 2 bolts in the back of our caliper here that we need to take off, and those are 15mm bolts, so we'll use our 15mm socket and a breaker bar to break those loose. Once we've got them broke loose, we can use our ratchet to finish taking them out. All right, you may need to use an extension because of the brake hose in here being in the way. All right, and once you got it out, as you can see, here's where the bolt holes are at on the caliper itself, and they mount to the caliper mounting bracket behind it. Now, it's also a good idea to use something like a caliper hanging tool to hold this up to prevent any stress on the brake hose itself. And we'll just go ahead and hang that up on the bracket right there, keep it out of the way. And once the caliper's out, just go ahead and grab a hold of the rotor and just pull it straight out. And just like the rears, you're going to probably most likely need a caliper piston compressor. Now, this is a special design one. It's designed for 4-piston calipers, such as what we've got on here. Now, because our vehicle doesn't have very many miles on it, we're not going to have to use this on ours because we don't have very much wear on them. But if you did, what you would have to do is open up your compressor like so, slide it in between the 4 pistons like this, and then using a ratcheting action back and forth, you would go ahead and compress those pistons. Now, you do need to compress all 4 pistons at the same time. Otherwise, they're going to be compressing one side and they're going to come out on the other side. So you'll use something like this, go ahead and compress those pistons, and then we can go ahead and put it back on and get our pads installed. All right, and just like what we did on the rear, we're going to go ahead and put our rotor on backwards so that we can clean the pad surface here. We'll go ahead and spray that down with our brake cleaner. Wipe it down with a clean cloth. And then flip it over and do the other side. All right, now something that might help you in putting this all back together, because as you can see, the rotor does want to flop around. If you take one of your lug nuts and just spin it on hand tight, it'll keep your rotor from flopping around while you're trying to put everything else back together. All right, now we can go ahead and reinstall our caliper. Using the original hardware. And we use our 15mm socket to tighten it down. Now we can go ahead and install our pads, making sure, of course, that the wear indicator is on the inside. All right, now we can go ahead and reinstall our retaining pins. You want to kind of line up the holes for the spring clip as well. Now they also do provide a new center spring clip, so we can put that on. Like so. Now we can go ahead and install the supplied retaining pin clip by pushing it inside one of the pins. And then the center section will go into a hole in the back of the caliper there. The other end will go into the pin. All right, now you can repeat this procedure for the other side as well. And remember, when you're finished, make sure you torque everything down to factory recommended specifications and then follow the manufacturer's break-in procedure for the new brakes. And that wraps up our review and install of the PowerStop OE replacement brake rotor and pad kit for the front and rear of your 15 to 23 Mustang GT without Performance Pack and EcoBoost with Performance Pack. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.